There we go. All right. Ready to rock when you are, buddy.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Welcome to the REO Show. My name is Ben Fredericks. I'm your host. I'm with Odell Barnes, REO.com. And please like and share the stream today. We're going to be giving away my guests copies of his book today. So, Todd, I'm going to make you some more money today and buy some of your books to give away. So that's right. So if you don't know my guest, you may have been living under a rock for the last couple of years, because for me, and maybe it's just he's on my page, he's everywhere. So I see him all the time. So, and he's somebody I admire tremendously in this business. You know, Todd and I kind of came up through the same circle without really knowing it until probably, you know, what was that, about 2.5 years ago when we did the Academy Challenge?
Yeah, 2.5 years ago, we got to do the Academy Challenge together. We both got to make it pretty far, which was cool as well. It was cool to see both of us, like, oh, we were both top 10 there. So we're both top 5 or top 10, which was awesome. Yeah,
well, there can only be one winner, and Todd was the winner of that challenge. So, which was great to see, and because I knew how hard he worked. And but if you don't know Todd, he is a best-selling author. He's got a couple of books, which he just flashed. One is If You Can't Wholesale After This, I've Got Nothing For You. And then his latest one is If You Can't Cash Flow After This, I've Got Nothing For You. And like I said, please like and share the stream today. I'm going to be giving away a couple of copies of each one of those books. And we'll talk more about those books later, because I wanted to get, you know, a little deeper on some of the stuff you talk about in there and learn more about it. But before I kind of, you know, dive into what I know and the questions I want to ask you, I wanted to get a little bit more about your background, some of the stuff maybe, you know, you haven't talked about before in interviews, kind of how you came up. You know, I know you're a huge baseball fan, you and I both, and it was kind of interesting, and, you know, probably maybe you should go into the hat business. I'm not real sure. But one of the reasons I wanted to have you on today is because we're such both big baseball fans, and tomorrow is opening day, and I'll get your thoughts on who you think is going to take it this year, and we'll get into all that. But I wanted to learn a little bit more, because I know you were chasing the baseball dream at one point in your life. So take me back to that and sort of that process, you know, because you've come from chasing baseball to becoming like this full-blown entrepreneur. And I'm wondering if that was ever even on your radar when you were younger, you know, chasing that baseball dream.
Yeah, so originally coming up, baseball was life. Baseball's still life a little bit, right? I mean, naturally, baseball's still a little bit life. But baseball was life growing up. I mean, we ate it, slept it, drank it. It was the only thing we did. It's the only thing we cared about. It's the only thing we thought about, which was cool, which I think what baseball actually taught me was how to be, like, obsessed in a good way, because we grow. When do we grow? We grow when we're at the extremes, right? We don't grow when we're in the comfortable, like, middle piece, like, where we're safe on each side. We grow when we're in one of the extremes. So whether we're super obsessed about something or really going after something else, like, that's where we're growing at the most. So baseball definitely taught me that. But in the beginning, I even told people, because people were like, oh, you should have a backup plan. You got to have a backup plan. I told everybody, I was like, no, there's no backup plan. I'm going to play baseball forever, or I'm going to die. That's it. That's the only thing I care about. It's the only thing I worried about. It's the only thing that ever crossed my mind. I played baseball at the University of Akron, and I tell people that I majored in eligibility, because I didn't care about the degree. I didn't care about going to class. I had no interest in class. I had no interest in the books. I never bought a book in college. Not that I really went to class a lot anyways, but, like, I never bought a book in college, never worried about any of it. My only concern was getting on the ball field. So had some opportunities later on, but in the end, what ended up happening was the general consensus was that I was too small. I wasn't a guy that was going to throw 94, 95 mile an hour. I was a pitcher, for anybody that didn't know. And when you're a right-handed pitcher, they like you to be big and tall and throw really, really hard, and then they'll teach you how to pitch. I was kind of the opposite. I was the smaller guy. I didn't throw all that hard, or as hard as that. But I knew how to pitch. So that's where my opportunities originally came from. But that was limited in a way of, like, how far I was going to make it. So when baseball did end, I was actually lost, completely lost. For a couple of years, I didn't know what to do. I worked some odd-end jobs. I worked at trucking brokerage. I sold cars for literally like a week. I was not great at that. Did not enjoy that. Wasn't a great used car salesman. But But I tried a lot of different little odd-end jobs. I worked at a aftermarket car part company because I was a huge car. I still am a huge car guy. I have a slight car problem. I love cars. That's not going away anytime. Cars and watches, right? Like I think we're both on the same page there. So I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. But so coming up, baseball was the only thing that mattered. And what it ended up teaching me was how to be obsessed in a good way and how to learn, how to really dedicate myself to something. So when it ended, I kind of one day it just hit me. I was sitting in the cubicle, depressed, stressed out, no money, didn't think I had any future, was confused. And suddenly, I don't know what it was. It just clicked in my head that one day I was sitting in my cube and I realized that like my personal financial situation and my personal life situation wasn't my employer's fault. I don't know what did it. I don't know what said like, hey, this isn't your employer's fault. This isn't so-and-so's fault. This is only your fault. And literally, I never walked in the doors again after that day. I didn't have any money, but it didn't matter to me. I made the decision at that point that I was gonna do something for me or I was gonna die. That was it. I was completely committed back to that baseball. Like, hey, no matter what, you're gonna do it. I had that mentality back, and I instantly like felt like a drive. A year later, I hadn't made a single dollar. So my last paycheck from my job was in the middle of September, and I didn't make another dollar until the middle of the following September. So for an entire year, I just tried things, but I never actually made any money. I was doing some stock trading and things like that. I had like some money in the markets originally, so I started like playing with that and tried a day trading deal. Realized it was cool, but it wasn't for me because I was in front of the computer screen all day. Again, it wasn't fulfilling to me. I was right back to the 9-to-5 job essentially, except it was actually longer and way more stressful. People that trade stocks and do well, you guys got ice in your veins. You guys are amazing. Like I have all the respect in the world for you guys that are successful at that. It's incredible. But it wasn't for me. And I started looking at things that were for me. And that's when I started realizing like I'd always thought about real estate. I always knew that I was going to own something of my own. I always wanted to create something that was generational. I wanted to create something that meant something and was fulfilling to me and would always drive me and kind of pull me towards a destination. And that is where real estate ended up taking me. I ended up learning about wholesaling from the Secret Entourage, Secret Academy. If you haven't heard of them, they're an awesome entrepreneurial group. You should check them out. So that's where I learned about wholesaling originally. And then I learned now, wait, I can turn houses, essentially, contracts, but turn houses, make money, even if I don't have any money or credit, because I had none. So that really piqued my interest. So I can get into real estate. I can start investing. I'm not going to be a 9-to-5er. I can essentially try to design my own future. And that's what really pulled me into the path that I'm on now. And that 100% started with baseball. Without baseball, I don't know if I ever have that drive or that mentality.
So when you're at that point, like where you go that year without making anything and you're dipping your toes into these different things, how old are you at that point?
I am 25 at that point. I'm 31. I'm 31 now.
Yeah. You and I are kindred souls because I went through the same exact thing basically about 3.5, 4 years ago. Unfortunately for me, I spent a decade doing financial services, over 3,000 days of doing something I absolutely hated. And you made an exact point there that it wasn't the employer's fault. It was on me. I hadn't decided, like I hadn't made a commitment to myself to move over and do something. So I commend you for doing that early because it takes a lot of balls, quite frankly. I mean, because if you go a whole year and say, all right, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to figure this out. And, it's a lot easier to do that when you're younger. So, and, you can try to make those mistakes depending upon where you are in life, but nonetheless, it takes guts because you could spend that whole year and still come out empty-handed without nothing to show for it,
Yeah, there's no guarantee of, results essentially, unless there is technically no guarantee. But I do believe that it is impossible that if you are learning and reflecting from your mistakes and you stick with it and you're making adjustments that you're not going to eventually get it. But a big reason why I was able to make the move was actually my parents. My parents, my entire life said, if I want to try something, do it now because you can do it now. Yeah. That was like their motto. Like I never looked into, like I never like understood that or really thought about it. Like when I was younger, they were like, play baseball now. Don't worry about it. Go for it now. Go for it. Do something new now. always try something new now because you're young and you can do it. And I never understood that. And now that I'm where I'm at now and doing what I'm doing now and looking at like when I started 5-6 years ago, I was like, oh, I get it. I should probably thank them. That was like something they were beating in, whether they knew it or not. I'm sure they did, because they both worked the same job for like 30 to 40 years. I don't know. And I was like, I could never do that. I watched my dad get up at 4 a.m. and come home at 4 p.m. every day. And I'm like, I can't do that for a week. How am I going to do it for 30 years? Like, I'm not going to survive. So I got to do something different. I got to figure out something on my own. So by them showing me that, I was incredibly blessed.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I was just going to ask, I mean, did you have anybody in your family to look to for, you know, either real estate or entrepreneurship, or was this something you just kind of started searching for and you eventually found the right thing for you?
So I'd say I'm the first one in real estate for sure. Nobody else had been in real estate. My parents always owned their houses, but they weren't like investing or doing rentals or anything. I didn't have any aunts, uncles, grandparents, anything like that, doing anything like that. It was more of a traditional kind of 9-to-5 style, or traditional kind of like white picket fence kind of deal.
Yeah.
And then we were always so focused on baseball. So my brother, ironically enough, my father goes to work at the same place for 30 to 35 years, does an incredible job. He's like the last guy in the world that's going to retire, like that retired. He's been retired for a few years on his savings, like in a traditional fashion. Last guy on the planet to ever do it, because like obviously the way things have changed now, you're not going to be able to do that. And so it was cool to see that, but it was funny because the guy's so traditional like that, raised two kids that are both entrepreneurs, both on their own businesses now. We even work together in one. And I think the greatest teacher of that was watching him get up every morning, watch him show up at 3 o'clock and like watch his drive, watch his consistency. He was always there. Like he would go no matter if he was sick or hurt or anything like that, because he had to take time off for baseball season in the summer. So to watch that and understand that, I obviously can't thank him enough now, but that would probably actually be our biggest influence. But it's funny that it's from the actual opposite side that actually showed us that we wanted to do something different and that we should go after it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. I mean, yeah, you don't have to have necessarily, I didn't have any big entrepreneurs in my family. I mean, my parents worked for the federal government for 30 years, you know, so same thing as your folks. You just go in, do your job, and come home and get a couple weeks vacation every year. There wasn't really, you know, much to follow when it came to that. I couldn't even pinpoint why it's in me, you know? So
right.
I just don't know. So it's there, and it's a scratch that constantly needs to be itched, it feels like. But so you eventually find, much like me, you're searching for this sort of right thing to find, and you come across Secret Entourage. So
yes.
Is that where you found the wholesaling aspect of real estate, was in the academy?
Yeah. So I was actually a reader of Secret Entourage from very early on. The first article I ever read from them was from Robert Himmler. And he was a young kid at the time. He was like 19, and he did an article, and he had how many people can relate to this? He had a green Lamborghini. So I was like, I'm going to read that article. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, let's check this out. So that was actually the first article I ever read. I'll never forget it. He's actually since passed away, which sucks. But that's what got me into Secret. And then I started reading their articles, and I read the articles from like Tim Sykes, which is what got me in the day trading and understand the trading kind of deal and really investing in myself for the first time. And so they actually brought me down this path of understanding and investing in myself and in knowledge and education. And if I continue to self-learn, like I'll actually get better. Like if you just go to school and you stop, like you'll be stagnant. You'll never grow past that. If you continue to learn on your own and you continue to learn how you actually learn best, you can become exponentially better at everything around you, or whatever you want to be great at. And obviously you're as a byproduct, you're going to earn more. So that's where I continued spending time in Secret and looking for things that interested me. And that's when they did a real estate special, and it was with Nick Ruiz, who was my first mentor in real estate. Great guy, fantastic guy, alpha home flipping, for anybody who hasn't seen him before. So that's actually where I learned how to wholesale in the beginning, a handful of years ago. It was before he even had like a wholesaling product. Like it was just him talking, and like he literally just spoke about, hey, how you can design letters in a way of speaking to people and finding people with problems to solve. And this is how you can solve them, by having a guy on the back end that can buy it from you, and you can take a cut in the middle. I'm like, so you need no money to do this, because I have no money. I will test this. I have no money. Like, you can do this. And sure enough, a few weeks later, $7,500 check. It was like the biggest $7,500 ever, right? So like champagne fell from the heavens. Like, it was amazing. So that is where I started.
Yeah, awesome, man. And if anybody watching, if you don't know Secret Entourage, I highly encourage you to look into it. It's a great resource for anybody that wants to be an entrepreneur. You know, just endless hours of content, things that you can use and implement into your business. And it's a great community. I mean, just to network with. I've constantly gone to that well first if I've got something I need for my business, or if there's a question I have about, you know, social media or direct mail or anything in particular. It's just an amazing resource. So, and it's, I mean, I don't even know what it costs today. I think probably when you and I joined, it's probably a lot more than it was today. But
yeah, I paid like $400 or $500. I think it's only a couple $100 now.
Yeah, it's ridiculously cheap for the value that it brings. And I mean, it's just a great thing. So you get that first deal. I mean, and right before that, you're down to like your last $20 and
11. I will never forget it. 11. I had $11 in my checking account when I closed my first deal.
Yeah, you're like Dwayne Johnson. So you get down to that last, you know, amount of money, and your back's against the wall, and you find Nick Ruiz and you find this program. So how do you go about getting that first deal? Like, do you remember the specific process that you went through to get that first deal? Because so many people come to me. I get DMs. You probably get them all the time too. How do I get started? How do I get started? Is like the most blanket question, you know. After that, it's like, yeah, get my book. You want to know how you get started? Just get the book. But you know, what was your process there from, you know, from A to Z, so to speak, that you were able to get your first deal done with no money?
Yeah, so I had absolutely $0. So I had nothing for marketing, so I couldn't do the letters. I remember writing a handful of yellow letters and everything, and trying to get them out, but I had no way to buy a list or get them out. I couldn't even pay for postage at that point. So I literally, when people are like, hey, I'm in a really bad situation, been there, feel your pain. It's okay. Like, use it for your creativity and your energy and your drive. So I started posting everywhere that I could, like in free advertising ways. So I started posting on like Facebook buy, sell, and trade groups. I started posting in Craigslist, anything that I could get my name out there without spending any money. And I ended up, in 1 week, I ended up getting a call off a Craigslist ad. And I went and looked at the house, and it was in a bad area. My dad went with me, actually. We walked the house together. The house was a total wreck. And I didn't know what to price the house at. I didn't have anybody to buy it. I had absolutely nothing. I just knew I was going to make this guy an offer. So I offered him 10 grand, and he took it. Okay. For anybody that doesn't know, I'm in the Northeast Ohio market. You can buy houses for 5, 10, 15, 20 grand. This isn't Bay Area, San Francisco, where 600 square foot checks like 1.2 million. Like, no, we buy houses for like 10, 20 grand up to like 50 to 60 for cash flow. But so I offered him 10 grand. He took it, and I couldn't sell it. I felt horrible. So, but the key here was that I built a relationship with the guy, and like we became friends. So he was like, hey, keep working on it, keep networking. He's like, if you can find somebody to buy it, great. And, you know, we'll keep you involved. So I ended up finally finding somebody. We agreed that he was going to take 7,500. I took 7,500. So we actually ended up splitting it. So I made 7,500 on my first deal in just a few weeks. And at that point, it was off the races, because once you do a deal, it doesn't matter if it's for $5 or 5 grand or 500 grand. Real estate switches from like belief to real. Yeah. And once it switches to real, you're off to the races. Like, you can't be stopped. You're learning a skill that you can take, you know, anywhere forever and be profitable from.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally true, because I mean, where I got started, you know, in what I do now, there was no belief in my mind that, you know, I could go out and raise, you know, a couple $1 million and then go buy a bunch of houses with it and, you know, do what we do. You don't get that confidence until you actually start taking the action. Like, you could sit there and think about it all day long and start thinking of all the reasons it can't be done. But if anybody's watching this and you're like, hey, I want to do deals. Well, the biggest thing you could do is just do like Todd just did. You just go out and take massive amount of action. He didn't have it all figured out. Like, he didn't even know who he's going to sell this property to, which is a whole other thing. And we could talk about that, you know, sort of working it backwards. But he didn't know to do that either. You know, it was just at the beginning stages. He's just like, all right, I've got to make something happen. I'm down to my last few bucks here. Let's get a deal and then see what we could do. And then you're right. So much confidence comes from just putting something into action and then seeing a result from it. So that's the biggest thing I think is, you know, just getting out there and doing something. So, you know,
and overcoming your first problems.
Yeah.
You know, and realizing that like something didn't stop you and you got through it or over it or around it or past it or whatever way you want to put it. The first time that you do that, it creates a lot of truth in you, right? So we talk about in the kingdom a lot and like in our general circle, like what's your axiom, right? What's your truth? What's the story that you tell yourself? And when you get through something like that, it really helps you build that story in yourself. Like, I am strong. I am confident. I do have the ability to do this. I can do this. I am doing this. Hell, I just did it. Like, how many times can I do it now? And it's going to change my life. Yeah. Like, what is a lot of people, if they make $7,500 in their first deal, that's 4 or 5 months of income typically from a normal job.
Yeah.
Like, that might be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work. And meanwhile, you had 3 or 4 hours of work in it, and it's your first deal.
Yeah. It's an amazing thing what it can do for you. I mean, if you just get it going. So what were some of those, like if you had to pinpoint, like you go and you look back on that first deal, you say, all right, these are the top 3 mistakes that I made doing that first deal. What would you say those would be?
I had no buyer lined up. I had no buyer lined up, and I had no buyer lined up. Those are the 3 biggest mistakes I made. The biggest mistake was that I didn't have a buyer lined up. The second mistake was that I did not have a great relationship with the title company yet. I ended up falling into a title company in which the owner happens to be a huge investor himself, and he's become a really close friend of mine and one of my personal mentors and somebody that I can trust. Like, I'm hugely blessed with that. I'm hugely fortunate for that. So my biggest mistakes would have definitely been I didn't have a buyer lined up. The title company I didn't have quite in line yet. I had talked to them like once, so they helped me. Like, he kind of took me under his wing and helped me through that situation. And then the third would probably be that I didn't continue doing what I did to get the first lead through the door. Like, once I got the first lead, I just kind of like squeezed it.
Yeah.
I stopped. I was like, I can't do anything else until I close this one. But in reality, I could have continued posting ads and like putting my name out there and maybe had 4 or 5 instead of just this one. And then I would have created a bigger network. So that would have helped me move forward quicker. So those would probably be my 3 biggest mistakes. So obviously now, what have I learned from that? One, I have a huge network. I'm confident that I can turn properties over to legitimate buyers at great prices and do a great service for them. I know that I have a title company backing me that I can close anything, whether it be creative or traditional. And then 3 is that we're super consistent now. I have a team in place now. I'm always making sure that we're moving and leads are coming across the desk that we can always be trying to capitalize on.
Yeah. You were like Tommy Boy with, you know, he had JoJo, the little Indian boy with a pretty new pet, you know, I love you. And then go out and get a few more little pets along the way. So you mentioned something there about, I'm sorry, guys. I'm a guy. I do movie references. That's how I communicate.
I was about to say, I can't believe we just got a Tommy Boy reference in.
It's a type. There might be more. So you talked about a little thing about having a mentor. Like, you know, at what point did you know, obviously Nick started out as like that mentor to you, you know, to learn a little bit about the business, but where does, you know, I know you probably have somebody you work with now that, you know, coaches you and helps you along the way. I get this question all the time. And again, I'm sure you do as well, probably more so because you're an author. Hey, can you mentor me? Can you do this? Can you help me, you know, grow my business? How did you approach somebody? Because this is a great thing that people can use. How did you approach somebody to become your mentor and teach you and guide you along the way? So
originally with Nick, I actually just emailed him. And I was lucky enough to get a response from him. I talked to him a couple of times. He happened to take the time. And then he also had a benefit of if you did a deal from one of his teachings that he would get on a call with you. So after I did a deal, I let him know I did a deal and proved it to him. And so I got to talk to him a little bit, which was awesome.
Yeah.
My next mentor, like transitioned into like who I work with now. So I have many mentors, right? Like, you have the kingdom up on the screen. So the kingdom has become all inclusive in a sense that we have people doing deals in all different areas of the world. that are the best in the world at what they do. So I have the ability to learn from so many people at once. It's amazing. But just transitioning from like, say, like Nick, and I'm still able to speak to Nick, which is amazing. But
Yeah.
transitioning to my personal mentor now, his name's Ben.
Sounds like a good dude.
Yeah, he's got a great name, right? Great name. Yeah. So he happened to be somebody that I was able to add value into his life too, because I was able to be somebody that was, one, bringing deals to his title company. So I brought value to him, which kind of brought me into his circle and his atmosphere. Like, hey, he's going to want to keep teaching me because I'm going to keep benefiting him as well.
Yeah.
Right. So it was really beneficial for both sides. And then also one of the reasons, because I even asked him, I was like, why did you deal with me? Like, I was so green and I was going to make so many mistakes. Like, why did you take the time? I was like, because you're not making that much off me at the title company. I don't care what you make off me. Like, you can charge me whatever you want, and I'm going to pay it. But like, because he has the mind, he's been doing it long enough to understand. He's like, because when you start relationships at this point, he's like, you're the type of guy that you end up doing like a skyscraper with in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. He's like, you're the guy that we end up being able to work together on huge projects in the future, which is kind of funny because we're kind of working on something together right now. And that doesn't start. You're not able to do that after a year of a relationship. You're able to do it after a decade of a relationship. So he's actually looking to start those like early on, which was incredible vision. In my opinion, I don't know if I would have seen that. I can see it now, but in the beginning, I would have never seen that. It was just like, oh, I'm just going to take time from this guy. And he's got 6 kids. So I don't even know how he has time to breathe, let alone, mentor somebody or spend time with somebody. But he always managed. So he's an incredible guy.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, it's all about bringing value, right? So, and then it transitions to a great relationship like yours. I mean, I have the same thing with my mentor. It was me saying, what can I do to help you, without trying to take and just be a taker and never get, give anything in return. So it's a law of reciprocation always. So, if I'm going to give, eventually the law of reciprocation is going to induce you to start giving back. And, and if it doesn't, then, we're not meant to work together, because I'm not going to be with somebody that isn't also in a giving kind of perspective. So, I think that's the great advice. If you're looking for a mentor, seek to find what you can give and continue to develop that relationship. Some of the best people I've met in over the last couple of years, their relationship building skills are like second to none, and they're madly successful in real estate. I mean, just madly successful.
Yeah. And when you come with the mindset of giving, what's ironic is like, if you ever go to like a traditional kind of REIA or real estate meetup, a lot of them are just horrible. Yeah. A lot of them are terrible because everyone's showing up like, what can I take? Right? Like, what can I like, how much can I profit? What can I take from somebody? If everyone shows up with the mindset of giving, everybody's able to take. That's what's funny. Like, if everyone shows up with the mindset of giving, the atmosphere is better, the relationships are better, and everyone ends up actually taking home more than they could have ever imagined because they were there to give. And if you can do that in your day-to-day relationships, your life's going to be wholeheartedly better. If you want a secret to life, if you want a better life, if you want to make more money, if you want to have better relationships, show up looking to give and make people feel better around you than when they're not around you. That's the key.
Yeah, totally. So you've been, you go from wholesaling. How long do you stay in that pocket of just doing straight wholesale deals?
I did traditional wholesale deals for about 2 years.
Okay.
A year and a half to 2 years. I got up to the point where I was doing between 3, 4, 5 deals per month. Average deals $5,000. Some are a little bit less, some are a little bit more. That kind of averages out. But it got to a point where like a $5,000 or $7,000 or $10,000 check didn't change my life anymore.
Yeah.
But, and I actually talk about this in the second book a little bit, is what really brought me, what really opened my eyes to, I need something that's a little more repeat and predictable. Other than me just going to bust my butt all the time, because I have no problem doing that. I'm going to outwork you. I'm totally cool with that. But my wife's pregnant with the first, at the time, our firstborn, and she gets sick. So she has it's called hyperemesis gravidum or something like that. Basically, long story short, she can't eat or drink and keep it that like. And when you're pregnant, you need to eat and drink, right? So she is sick for 9 months. So I can't go out and do my normal hustle. So basically, I go from doing between 3 and 5 deals per month to doing 0 for the first 4 months of her pregnancy. And like literally the title company is calling me like, is everything okay? Like my network's calling me, is everything okay? And I explained it to them. That's when I realized that's what really hit me. Like I need things on repeat. Now my wife was really traditional at the time. She still wasn't sold on real estate. She still had her 9-to-5 job. She was like anti anything that wasn't like established. So it was really, really scary for her. So she wasn't ready to own rental property yet. She wasn't ready to take on that responsibility and understand like what can be beneficial of it. Yeah. So I actually transitioned her to it by starting to take promissory notes on my wholesale fees. So instead of me taking a $5,000 or $10,000 fee up front, I would take a $5,000 or $10,000 promissory note, and I would start taking monthly checks from it, getting paid every month from it. And then I would turn a $5,000 or $10,000 check into like 12 or 15,000. And I would actually end up doing more deals because I could do more thin deals because the buyer didn't have to bring capital for me at closing. They could get paid over time. And what it did is we ended up having a bunch of paper, and it would show up every month. We get paid every month. So now we have some repeat income. We have our, we have our son. We have, and he's going to be 3 here soon, just to give you like a timetable when this was. He's going to be 3 soon. And so now we have enough note paper or enough note income. But you love notes. I'm wildly proud of you, by the way. Incredible. So now we have enough paper income month to month to cover our expenses. We're technically financially free, depending on your definition of it. And I'm not having to work for it. So I'm able to spend time with them and still have predictable income. And at that point, once she was feeling better after the birth, she was sick for 9 months, literally the entire pregnancy. And she was home, obviously, for a few months after that. And then she ended up leaving her job permanently. So she's no longer having to work now, which is awesome.
She believes now, right?
What's that?
She believes now, right?
She believes in real estate now. That's actually what did it. So after all that and being able to survive all that, we ended up buying our first rental after that. And then what we did is after I bought her first rental, we did something for her. And she wanted to do something later on. And I was like, how are we going to pay for that? She's like, you better go buy another house. So I was like, it's here. It's time. Clicked. It's officially time to go. So then we've been, pedal to the metal ever since. So my goal this year is to buy 50 more properties, and we're on pace to do that right now. So
awesome. I want to commend you for something, because I don't think a lot of people have the vision to do what you did there. And that is to sort of punt on your income, right? Like a lot of people would be like, well, you had a long-term vision. So a lot of people are very short-term minded. They say, well, give me the money now, and then I'll do something else with it. But that was like, I think that's brilliant. And anybody that, is watching this, you should go back and watch what he just said again, because did you come up with that concept yourself, or did you learn that from somebody?
That's not easy. So I don't originally know where. So it was more of like a creative brainstorming. So I was actually with Ben at the title company, and I was just closing a traditional one, which I wasn't even coming in anymore because a lot of them are assignments. So I didn't even have to go in. And I remember being at a closing for some reason. I don't remember why, but we were talking, and I was like, look, I need something more repeat. Like we need to figure out a way that I can keep doing what I'm doing. And the reason that we're not buying rentals yet is because she's not comfortable with it. And it's really not sexy to take a $200 check a month instead of 10 grand up front, by the way. Well, over time, it only takes a handful of times before you're financially free, though, and it covers your bills, and it's really cool. And then you can scale on top of it because you got this big, strong foundation to build on. And the reason we used notes the way that we did was because you don't have any responsibility with notes. You don't have any tenants. You don't have any ownership. You don't have any problems per se. Your only job is to really cash a check. And that's how I wanted to teach Denise. That's the name of my wife. I needed to teach Denise, this is how money can just flow to you with no worry. Like, you don't have to trade your time for money. Time's your most valuable asset. How do we actually transition you into owning property eventually? Because that's what we want to do. We want to have both. I think paper's still my favorite, by the way, but I like the benefits of both, so I want to have both. So how do I transition you through that? And we were sitting at the title company, and one day we just came up with the idea, like, $5,000 or $10,000 checks are not going to change my life, but what if I started taking, if I'm selling the right type of property, say to a landlord who is going to hold on to the property and cash flow it for a long time, why don't I take some of that rent? Or why don't I take a couple $100 a month and he can come to me with less, and then I can hold a lien on the property for 5 years, 6 years, 4 years, whatever. So I started doing some owner finance, buying stuff, selling it owner finance, and then my wholesale fees, I just started taking promissory notes. So it was kind of like a brainstorming session, but it ended up becoming something really creative and unique. And then I hadn't heard anybody else talking about it up until like a year into the kingdom. Somebody else, one other person brought it up, and I was like, you know about this? It's kind of like I don't know if people just don't know about it or just don't talk about it, but there's not a lot of people that are doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. $10,000 check is very sexy, but it's not as sexy as financial freedom. And people, you know, they're just putting themselves back to work, you know, every single month. They're, you know, kicking themselves into the unemployment line again, so to speak, and saying, all right, back to square one. Whereas they could be building, you know, this amazing cash machine that, you know, just completely changes their entire life. The problem is, I think, is most people don't have the vision, and they don't have the patience for it, you know? So, because it does take patience, it's not going to happen overnight. So, you know, but if you put in, you know, a good solid 6-12 months of hard work, by the end of that 12 months, you can be very close or even be free, depending upon what your monthly nut is. So,
yeah, we built like $7,500 a month in like paper income in 12 months.
That's amazing. Yeah.
In 12 months. So anything, like, the cool part about it is like every time you do one, it just gets a little bit better. So the toughest one to do is your first one. You're going to turn down a $5,000 check for $7,500 over time.
Yeah.
Right. They're gonna accept a $5,000 note at $200 a month for 3 years or whatever at 10% interest or whatever it turns out to be, or 6% interest. So you're going to earn a little bit more because of the interest, and you're doing a service and not making them bring money up front, and because you're actually providing a service to the buyer, which is huge. And over time, like the first one's the toughest, the second one's a little easier, the third one's building on top, the fourth one you're starting to build a habit, and you're like, oh, this is fun. Fifth one's exciting, and then you're like, making $3,000 a month without doing anything. How many times can I do this? Like, they just keep stacking on top of each other because you're buying yourself a lot of time.
Totally. Yeah. That's what it's all about, really, is just buying yourself time. So, because I know at the end of the day, you know, your idea is family time. You know, what can I do to spend time with my kids and my wife? And that's all passive income is about, is buying time. So, you know,
which by the way, people ask me like, hey, what if they don't pay you? Fantastic. Let's say it's $100,000 house. Right?
Yeah.
They come in and they pay $100,000, and you have a $10,000 lien over 5 years, and they don't pay you year 2. You now have a free $100,000 house. Now you just made $110,000 instead of $10,000.
Oh,
like if you resell it, like people get foreclosed on for less than that too. It's you are protected. You're in a good spot.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think that's brilliant. So, however you learned it, you're implementing it, and that's the most brilliant part. So, genius. So, talk to me about, you know, scaling. You're doing this straight wholesale deals for a couple of years. Are you scaling at that point, or is it still just you 100% in the pocket on your business?
Just me in the pocket, man. First couple of years is me just working. I don't want to say I was working 8 or 10 hour days or 12-hour days, because I really wasn't. I was doing 4, 5, 6 hours probably, but that's 4, 5, 6 focused hours, which is big. Like, it's the only thing I'm focused on. And 2, I'm not really counting like, hey, I'm driving to go look at a property as work. I'm thinking of like actually thinking of like integrating something or applying something or reflecting or working on a system or anything like that. So the first year and a half or so, it's just me. 2 years, it's just me. I have a team now. I have full-time renovation guys. They're fantastic. They're the greatest dudes in the world. I have a full-time manager, financial partners. Like, now that I've spread it out, it's much more manageable. And 2, we have the ability to scale now. So we have someone that's reserved for, hey, getting properties up and online and getting them rented. And they're the hub of the management team. So when a call comes in, they can put it out to our full-time like renovation, like construction guys, right? So they can go handle it. And notice how at no point was I called during that.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to be asking yourself, great, like something I pride myself is on is asking great questions. So if I'm asking myself great questions all the time, like if I had 50 to 100 more of these, what's my life look like? And if the answer is anything but great, you know you have a problem that you need to fix. So I eventually got to the point where I'm wholesaling, I'm doing the note stuff. And if I want to scale, well, I'm going to need people around me. I can only do so much myself. I have 24 hours in a day, but how much time does 10 people have? Does 20 people have? Does 30 people have? Yeah. And now we can start spreading it out and becoming, 10, 15, 20, 30x as productive. And then we can scale that. That's how we have the ability to be working on 29 properties right now or 30 properties right now. You know what I mean? Like it's at a much quicker pace.
So when you started out, I mean, starting to bring these people on, were you just focusing on like, was your vision like, all right, I'm going to get myself like 90% out of this business? Or was it like, all right, let me just focus on getting the people that will satisfy my weaknesses, the things I don't do well, or I don't have the time for, or that are sucking the life out of me. And then let me just do the things that I enjoy doing, which might be, going to meet sellers and, working your projects. And, so what was that vision like for you?
Yeah, I wanted to maximize my strengths and maximize my weaknesses at the same time. So I am not a guy that's super organized. Benjamin. Yeah. Yeah. Benjamin Duggan is the name of my manager. He will vouch for that. I am not very organized. He sets up calendars for me. He's very technical. He understands like the little details. He does a great job with that. Like we have an entire online database system now. And before I was like, who do I call? Brandon. I call Brandon for this. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was all in my head, which isn't sustainable or scalable. So he was able to get everything like out of me and into a system. That way we could actually scale out. So when I was thinking about bringing somebody on, I wanted somebody that I could work with and kind of bring them up in a way that like they're going to do real estate in the right way. Because if we're doing it in the right way, all the people around us can do it in the right way. And we can actually create wealth by buying the entire area and then raising it up. Right? All of our properties will become more valuable if we're all doing things the right way. So I wanted to bring somebody in and create a culture of like a family atmosphere and really loose and really people are having fun. At the same time, people are held accountable because you actually want to be held accountable. People want to be held accountable when you have structures and systems in place and you're staying on the rails and you're feeling progress. Everybody feels good. So that's what I was really focused on. And when Ben came in, he was already a friend. He actually approached me. And I started thinking about like how great of a fit he actually is because of the technical side, like the pieces that he holds that are actually, my weaknesses and that are his strengths.
Right on. So what does scaling cost you?
What does scaling cost me? That's a good question. Scaling costs a little bit of time and patience in the sense of you have to be willing to let others make mistakes and get them to a point where you're understanding that. Trying to get that going again. Sorry. That's a good question. Scaling costs a little bit of time. It's like Inception right there. Sorry. I was trying. I had a question like pop over, like catch the corner of my eye.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted to make sure it was still working. But it costs a little bit of time in the sense you have to let people make mistakes. You have to let people learn. But honestly, scaling is something that it's going to cost you some fear, some responsibility. It's going to cost you some serious time and thought, and trying to apply the correct pieces or put the people in the right pieces because you want people to thrive, right? So. Yeah. I think what it's done for me is it's really opened me up and allowed me to look at myself and adapt and look at everything as, malleable. That way we can actually change it into something that is more benefit. Like nothing is set in stone. Like we put somebody in place and they're not working out. We don't just like we're looking at our responsibility of, okay, if I have to get rid of this person, it's actually my fault. Obviously there's times where people aren't going to work out, but if it's my fault if somebody has to leave because of this, I want to be able to actually adapt and look and see how they work best and see how I can put them into a place that they will thrive and grow versus just being stuck in something that, you know, I have experience with this. It doesn't, just because you have experience with something doesn't mean you don't hate it. Like you were in financial, and you're in the financial world for a decade. You can go get a job right now because it's on your resume, but you hate it.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to avoid that.
Yeah. I think you learn, you're absolutely right there. You learn a tremendous amount about yourself once you have to start taking responsibility pretty much for everything. I mean, you know, when you start having responsibility for others, responsibility for yourself is one thing in and of itself. And then you have responsibility for, let's say, a child. That just is amplified tremendously.
You never turn off at that point. Like once you see that little fence looking up at you, like I'm hungry, like, oh no.
Yeah, life is never the same. And then once you add employees to the mix, you know, it's amplified again to another level because, you know, you have to start managing not only the work, you have to manage personalities, you have to manage mindset, you know, inside of your people, because your people may not be developed as you. They may not spend as much personal time on personal development, you know, as somebody like you and I do. You know, so that takes a lot of, I don't even know the word. It's not always patience, but it's a lot of discovery of yourself and how you can learn to effectively communicate with people and do things. And it's a great thing. I mean, once you learn these things about yourself, you learn what you're capable of and what you can do. And scaling, I think it pushes the envelope of making you uncomfortable. And that's what keeps me moving forward every single day. I'm constantly uncomfortable leading and doing all the things that have to be done in my business. But all of those things drive me forward, which is pretty awesome. So
costing comfort was a really good answer to that. It costs comfort for sure. The key to team building, from what I've learned so far in my life, radical transparency, radical honesty, and empower others. Like allow others to have creativity, power, and like a voice.
Yeah.
And if you're not running a dictatorship, things seem to go much, much better.
Yeah. I used to be one of those guys that would like sort of try to avoid conflict. It wasn't really my thing, but I learned this from Grant Cardone. He would talk a lot about just confront the beast, because once you do that, you know, it's not about conflict. It's just about, hey, it's exactly what you just said. Let's just get this out of the way quickly and move on. You know, let's address it, handle it, and then next. And I think that's a highly effective way to do it. So I think that's great advice. So let me tell you guys a little bit about how I discovered Todd. So Todd and I are in this, you know, entrepreneurship circle. We don't know it. You know, it's a large community. I think there's, you know, what, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 people in Secret Entourage. Just
in the group Facebook group alone, there's like 7,000 or 8,000, and there's 40,000 in the community itself.
Yeah. It's huge. So you could spend 10 years and not meet everybody that's in that, you know, type of thing. But so I met Todd through a guy that's actually watching now, Jordan Payne. And I had learned, couldn't even tell you, probably came across a Facebook thing or something, you know, much like anything else. I don't even know how I assume I learned everything through Facebook at this point, you know? So
yeah, right.
It's how I come across everybody, it seems like. So, you know, I come across this group and, you know, I joined the kingdom, and it was exactly what I needed at that time, because I was in that exact same spot you were, where your back's up against the wall. You got to do something. You've been trying to do other things. They're not, you know, sort of you're in your wheelhouse of what you want to do. And I come across a couple of these guys, and, you know, it's an amazing group. First of all, I will sing your guys' praises till the cows come home. So, but tell me about why you started this, you know, group of real estate guys that are sort of, I would call you guys like the anti-guru group. You know, that's not your thing. You're not trying to, you know, charge people 30 grand to learn about real estate. You're really just kind of a grassroots type of organization. Talk to me about, you know, how you guys kind of came to a head there and said, all right, this is why we want to do this.
Yeah, so it all started. So Jordan, the man of the hour that you mentioned a minute ago, so he and I actually met on Facebook naturally, just like you mentioned. Everything happens on Facebook, and we actually didn't actually start off on like this great foot of like, hey, we're gonna be best friends. It was he was talking smack on wholesalers. I was actually a legitimate wholesaler. So he said wholesalers never bring him a good deal. So I brought him like 5 like awesome deals, like in like 72 hours. And he was like, who is this guy? So we kind of joked back and forth. I was like, you going to buy him or what? Like, you talking? Like, but so that's actually how our relationship started. But he ended up having a real estate group or Facebook group that was obviously based in real estate. And he was doing some education stuff and trying to help people kind of move along. He had a passion for it. I have a passion for education. I think it's a gift of mine. I think communication and education is a gift of, God that I've been blessed with. So I want to be able to spread that and use that to the best of my ability. And he had a free group that he invited me into, and we played back and forth a little bit over a couple months. And then one day I made a step-by-step how to get your first wholesale deal with no money while I was walking the dog video. And it got some good responses, and he actually messaged me and he was like, hey, you should do more of that. That was really good. I was like, okay, probably do that. So we started doing like a little bit more content creation. And at this point, it was just a free group. There's 5, 6, 7,000 people in it or something. But there was like a couple hundred that were like a really good, like that were active. And then there was like probably like 50 or 75 people that were like a really good core. But the problem was, if you've ever been in a Facebook group that's based in real estate, they're all horrible. Yeah. They're loaded with terrible information, a bunch of spam. Everyone's just trying to sell a deal and take, right? It's just kind of like the traditional REO meetings. They're trying to take and not give. And our group was trying to give and not take. So I had the idea. I was like, well, because we're spending so much time deleting messages, deleting bad posts, deleting bad information. It was just hectic to the point where like our businesses were like, our personal businesses were suffering because we're trying to keep up with this crap. And it was frustrating because I was like, we have this awesome core of 50 to 75 people that want to learn, that are taking action, that are applying the principles and like making a difference in their lives. But we have all these other people trying to take from that and like get in the way of that. So I had the idea. I was like, if we charge a small fee, a small monthly fee, no spammer or crook is going to pay that fee to come into the group and ruin it, right? They're not going to jump through that hoop to get into the group and kind of ruin it for everybody else. So I ended up making just, a really, really affordable. And back in the beginning, there was like 50 or 60 of us in there, and it was just a few bucks a month. And all the money went back into like content creation and trying to give it back and like, and create a bit of a movement, because we were somebody that when we started, I had $11, right? I didn't have $25,000 to give to somebody. I didn't have 50 grand to give to a rich dad seminar. I didn't have 100 grand to give to a personal mentor to learn this stuff. I had nothing. I had to learn it like from the ground up. So we wanted to kind of create that for people. But at the same time, what is the biggest determining factor of your success other than your consistent action and mindset? It's the people around you. It's your network. It's the people raising you up. How do you keep moving in those tough times? People pick you up and they move you forward. So this community has the ability to keep you moving in the right direction at all times. If you get beat up, it's okay. Come into the group, mention a few things. People are going to pick you up, give you some advice, and keep you moving on your way. That way you're actually moving towards financial freedom at all times, alongside getting the step-by-step technical, teachings that you need to be able to complete the deals that you want to complete and build the life that you want. So it started growing. So now we have 400 or 500 members, and people are doing deals all over the country because they're in the kingdom. People are partnering with other people. People are coming to the kingdom, build a relationship with others. They meet them at our live events, and they literally come together, and they're doing deals with people across the country that they would have never met before. So it's absolutely incredible, truly humbling. And our whole goal in that is to have an atmosphere of family, caring, giving, and picking each other up. And so far, like the way things are moving recently as well, it's just been truly humbling. It's awesome to see everybody love on each other as much as they are. Yeah. And you've been a part of it. You've been a wildly successful piece of it. Like I can't mention like how proud I am of you and to see the growth that you've had, and you are a testament to like everything that is meant to be, because you're inside of it, like raising people up through your experiences, through like, hey, this is where I was and now I'm here now. Like, hear me out. And it goes a long way.
Yeah. And like I said, at that particular point in time, what I needed the most was not necessarily like, you know, the strategy. It was the belief that I could do it. And that was one of the biggest things that I got from that group was, hey, this can be done. And you look at, you know, you're in, you know, Northeast Ohio. Jordan, he's in like, God only knows where in Montana. You know? You know, I'm like, all right, these guys are crushing it. There's no reason I can't be doing this too. And so much of confidence came from that group. And, you know, and at the end, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about how, if anybody wants to join the group, they can definitely do so. So, so I wanted to ask you quickly, how you doing on time? You okay?
Oh, I'm good. As long as you want to go, man. And the other piece to like the kingdom is like, what's so exciting to me is nowhere else on this planet can you sign up day one and be in front of millionaires doing millions of dollars every single day that will talk to you directly and give you their time. Yeah. Like that. Like they will literally speak to you right off the bat. You're brand new, never done a deal. You can speak to somebody doing 8 figures a year flipping. Like those, like I learn every day from it, right? Like the whole concept is learning and growth and moving in the right direction and building financial freedom for everybody. We actually just implemented a Hall of Fame. So anybody that quits their 9-to-5 day job gets put into like this file, and you get like gifted out on it. It's pretty cool. So I mean, you'd be amazed on how many people have been able to leave their 9-to-5 jobs because of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let me talk to you a little bit about your books, because, you know, most people they don't write a book thinking, oh, I'm going to make a bunch of money and, you know, I'm going to, you know, do this, that, or the other. Why did you take the time to write your first book? I know, again, we've discussed this about being a giver and, you know, all the things that you've given your time and your energy into the kingdom, which isn't something that's making you wealthy. You know, what kind of gave you the inkling to do that?
So it was a combination of things. One, I wanted to win that challenge, bro. No one else is going to write a book. Okay.
That's where I fall. Finally. It's revealed.
I actually did write it during the challenge, but the true motivation behind it was when we were looking back at scale, right? So I get a lot of personal messages and a lot of DMs. How do I start? How do I do this? So I started compiling in my head, like, what are the common questions that I'm always getting and I'm always answering that would be, if it was in a central spot, it would be great for everybody. And at the same time, it needs to be accessible to everybody and affordable enough that it's not going to be detrimental, like in a way of like, hey, this is behind a $25,000 firewall barrier of like, you got to pay me first to get this information. I wanted everybody to have it because I wanted everyone to do better in real estate and better for themselves. And my life's purpose is to end financial suffering. And to do that, I need to reach as many people as possible. So I was like, if I write a book and I write it step by step and I tell my story and I let them know that these are the things that you can expect, and I can walk you through that process and you stick with it, you're going to do a deal. There's no doubt about it. You're going to do a deal. You're going to be able to buy the book. You're going to be able to go step one. And at the same time, I wanted it written in a way that when you go through the steps, let's say you're on step 4, right? Yeah. Like, man, I'm running into this situation. You have the book with you. You go to step 4, you go to that situation, you go, this is how I solve it. This is how I handle it. This is how I get around it. Like, this is expected. So I did it, 1, for scale, and 2, to get it in front of many people as possible, to help as many people as possible get through that next step. That way they can build up their financial freedom and really stabilize themselves in their finances, because the world would be a better place if everybody was stabilized financially. Yeah,
agreed. So the one thing I really loved about your book I've read, God only knows how many books on real estate. Like, it's ridiculous. My shelf back there is stacked full of them. But what I liked about your book was you start off talking about mindset and what it's going to take, you know, to be able to do this. I've not seen that. You know, there's certain books you can get to help you with mindset, but to have the mindset of, all right, this is what it's going to take for you to be able to do this. This are the things you're going to have, like you just said, the challenges that you're going to face. You know, are you prepared for it? Get yourself in this particular mindset. And that was one of my favorite things about it. So, I mean, yeah, you get all the practical steps, which is completely necessary. I mean, I think a lot of real estate books miss out on that too, because they don't, they leave, it seems like, something unsaid, then you're like, well, what do I do now? And, if you want to learn how to do a deal, just read Todd's book. I mean, it's all right there. There's no excuse when you get to the end of that book not to do a deal. So,
you just nailed the second reason why I wrote it. The other reason why I wrote it was to solve the problem of, I've read so many real estate books, and they're either at the end of the book, you either feel great and you're like, man, I can't wait, but I didn't have any action steps. I don't actually know what to do. I just know how awesome real estate can make my life. I don't really know what to do. And then the other side was, here's your super technical piece, right? With no mindset to build you up into a place where you can actually get that done. Because the first problem that you run into, you're still in your old paradigms, and you go, oh, this isn't for me because this person didn't have these problems. But in reality, they've all had the problems. They've all had to learn the technical pieces and the mindset and the growth mindset and adopt all of these principles to get these things done. So I wanted to put it in a place where, like, in the beginning, here's your mindset. Here's where you got to be. Here's what you need to understand, and understand that you're going to run into some bumps and some bruises, and you're going to get through it because you're stronger here because of it. You're stronger in your mind because of this. Now that you're stronger and confident and you feel good, go do this. Yeah. When you're done doing this, go do this. When you're done doing that, go do this. Until when you're done with the book, if you're taking action alongside the book, you'll read the last page and you'll go, I just got a $7,000 check. I just did a deal.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I should do that again.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading something the other day. It talks about, instead of, and I'm on this big kick where I'm trying to knock out a book a week this year, but it was talking about reading a book. Instead of trying to read so many books, maybe read one book 10 times and start dissecting every single thing inside of that book. And yours is one that, if somebody's trying to do real estate and really, take it on, they can go back and do that over and over and over and over again and just repeat the process. But if they, sometimes people, and I don't know why this happens, it's just human nature, I guess. We start to think that, we've got it all figured out, and we start to skip steps. But if you go back and apply that sort of mastery to Todd's book, it could change your life and what you could really kind of do. So, and, start to implement the little things that he talked about, creating cash flow, which sort of segues into the next book, which is on cash flow. So what was the reasoning behind that book, and tell us a little bit more about it, because quite frankly, it's my favorite topic.
Hey, me too. So the point of the series, so the series is called "I've Got Nothing for You," and just kind of ironic, but it's a 3-part series. I wanted to actually simultaneously walk you through my story and the mindset and the growth, and at the same time give you the step-by-step principles in which you need to, one, this book, build your time freedom. You can go out and do 10 deals off this book, create $40,000 or $50,000 in savings, and you can then start to focus on, okay, I have mental clarity now because I'm not wondering where my next meals come from. I now have time freedom. I don't have to go to a job if I don't want to. I have the ability to make a choice. And then the second book, If You Can't Cash Flow After This is all based on building your mind and changing your mind from sexy lump sum checks, because you got to change from like right now, to understanding that long-term thinking and understanding delayed gratification is one of the single most largest determining factors of success and financial stability. So if I can teach you how to delay gratification a little bit and understand how you can transition just from a sexy check to something that pays you every single month, no matter what, you can build a life of whatever you want. I have no determining factor on like what you believe success is. It could be financial, it could be time, it could be family, it could be friends, it could be experiences, it could be traveling. I don't care what it is. These will allow you to pursue those items, which creates a life of fulfillment. And a life of fulfillment allows you to generate an energy around you that flows into everybody, right? When you're in a good mood, everyone around you is in a good mood. So that's what I wanted to portray and give you the steps to do through those books. And you can only truly get free from having to work again if you can build cash flow into your life. But you can do it, with minimal risk and with the correct steps in place. You can save yourself a lot of heartache, and you can do it much quicker than what people realize.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there. The long-term gratification, it's a challenge for a lot of people that, are coming up, because we live in a world where we can get everything instantaneously.
Yeah.
And it's hard for them to have that vision. And, it doesn't take long. You're absolutely right. I mean, you and I both got it done in, less than a year. And, I'm the only thing I kicked my own self in the ass for is that I didn't do it 10 years ago. So, start building that passive income today, because it's amazing what it can do for you. So, you got a third book coming out. When is that happening? I know you just kind of had this come out. So,
Yeah. So the cash flow book technically came out January 1. So it's been out for a couple months now. I am working on a third book. The third book is actually not in this series. The third book. So I've actually been working on a couple outlines and kind of mapping them out. I have a financial literacy book. It's going to be called, I've actually never told anybody the name.
Oh, exclusive. Pay attention.
Yeah, exclusive. Yeah. It's going to be called Get Off Your Lazy Assets. Your liabilities are killing you. And then there's a mindset book. So people have actually been asking for the mindset book. So the mindset book might come out first. So we'll see what things look like here. But third book definitely before the end of the year. What you might actually see before that is I've actually written a couple of children's books. So I'm excited to get those out, and because I realize I want to affect people's lives. I want to end financial suffering. I got to get to people before they have the $40,000 in student loan debt. I'll teach you how to get out of that. No problem. That's fine. But mentally, people are already distraught. I want to get to them before they make the mistake, and they can be growing before that. So I have some kids' books coming out that are currently being illustrated.
Cool, man. That's awesome. That's really exciting, because Andy Frisella did that, and he talked about I gotta get people before they develop these bad habits. What's the best way I could do it? I could get them when they're kids,
And I love Charlie and Otis.
Yeah, my daughter loves it.
Great. Yeah.
So that's great, man. So just a couple more things. I'll get you out of here. I know you're busy. You got things to do. So talk to me. I know success leaves clues. Talk to me about your daily routine. What does a Todd Fleming do from day to day that really kind of sets you up for success? What does that day look like?
So I actually changed wildly my routine back in November. And the reason for that was I was the guy that would go to bed when I wanted to, woke up when I wanted to, because I was like, I'm free, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to get up at 5 a.m. and do all these things and blah, blah, blah. Until I realized to achieve the goals that I have to be that person. I can't be thinking about that person like, oh, I'm going to eventually become this guy that makes $1 million a month, or achieves these goals of setting financial freedom for everybody on the planet and stabilizing everyone's finances. And because financial freedom is a choice, and it's a habit. It's just a habit. It is literally just the work that you put in from day to day that ends up, culminating into your results. So when I want to portray that, I realize I have to be that person. So now my daily routine looks like I'm up at 5 a.m. every morning. I hydrate. I read. So I get my mind right. I do absolutely nothing on this terrible thing we call a phone. I don't have an app on my phone. I had to download it. I had to re-download Instagram to try to go on Instagram Live with you. Those are all distractions. I'm so wildly focused and dedicated to my craft of like just moving forward and being focused on my one greatest thing, or my one most important thing, and like just giving all my time and energy to it, because the guys that are super spread out, they're never going to win. They can't beat me because I'm too dedicated. I'm going too deep, right? I'm putting too much energy into the things to be the best at it. So I don't like, when it comes to real estate education, nobody's going to beat us. Like, I am fully dedicated to that. I want to touch more lives than anybody. I want to build a community that's moving forward at all times. I want to have this huge, massive movement that changes people's lives, right? So when we're super dedicated to that, I realize like, oh, my day-to-day has to be that. So I'm up every morning, 5 a.m., hydrate, read, and then I start working on my most important items of the day. By 8 or 9 a.m., I've done more and can accomplish more than most people do in a week. So I have that focus that in time blocking and and allowing yourself to put in the work and the time that's owed to it.
Yeah.
And that way you're optimizing yourself at all times. You're not in the fog. You're not in a haze. I'm eating better. I don't drink as much, but I never really drank alcohol. That's never been a problem for me. It just makes me feel like crap. My problem was pop. I loved pop. And for anybody east of the Mississippi, it's soda, right? So you guys are wrong. It's pop. So I drank a lot of pop. So I don't drink as much pop now. I eat better. I feel better. What's today's date? March 27th. So on the 1st of this month, I started becoming more physical, getting up, moving more, being more active, which obviously is giving me more energy. It's always moving me towards the goals and the targets that I'm setting. So if you want to create any goal that you have and you want it to actually come to fruition, you have to become that person. So you have to realize that habits and routines are massive.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and you watch this again, like I said at the beginning, success leaves clues. 9 out of 10 people that I talk to that are successful, they all have a very, very similar routine to what Todd's is. Mine is almost identical. I'm up at 5. I drink a big giant glass of water, and then I'm out the door. I walk 3 miles listening to a podcast or listening to an audio book. And then, I'm starting my day off on something positive. So, I'm not reacting to my phone or anything else. It's just getting my mind ready for the day. So I always love, I know exactly what you were going to say before you even said it, because I know enough successful people that they have a very, very similar routine. So what you have a great why, which I want you to share with people. My why is it drives everything I do, and I know it's the same for you. So my why is to help 10,000 families become homeowners. That in turn is going to help me. It's going to help my family. It's going to create generational wealth. It's sort of this trickle down effect of all my other whys, the things I want to give back to, the charities, the places I want to go, all these things. Can you share what yours is and what kind of gets you out of bed every day at 5 a.m.? Because it's challenging. I mean, there are days I don't want to get up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So what keeps you pushing?
If your why is not big and clear enough, you'll be doing what's called pushing, like you're pushing towards your goals. And what happens when you push? You get tired, right? And when you're tired, you have to rest, so you end up falling back. When you have a big enough, clear enough why, you actually are pulled to it. So even when you're tired, you end up making it up that hill, right? You're being pulled to it. There's days you don't want to get up, but you still get up because you're being pulled to it. You have a super good, clear, awesome, big why. And thank you for saying that your why is not your thank you for not saying that your why is your family, because everybody has the why of a family. I get it. We all want to do good things for our family. You need to be more clear and bigger than that. Yeah. You need to be generational. You want to help 4 people or 4 million people. So my why is to end financial suffering. And what that means to me is that anybody that has the ability to get in front of me or hear something from me has the ability to stabilize their finances and has the ability to grow from it and to create options within their life. So what I mean by that is, like, any time that you have a stress and you have to check your bank account before you go to the grocery store or anything like that, that's a stressor. I can eliminate that for you if you listen. That's why I have the company, The Power of Finance. It's why I do live shows that are coming back, because I did a pilot of them to see if it would gain traction. People really enjoyed it. You can take the steps and have the financial literacy and the habits to a point where you can be so financially stable and always growing and always have this foundation that's moving forward for you. That way you're not worrying about the small things and you create options in your life and you can truly, truly, truly pursue the fulfilling whatever it is, goal or dream that you have, because finances aren't holding you back. So many of us have this idea of security being held in by someone else's job or someone else's career or someone else's path that we can't get out of it because, well, we need that next check for rent. And we need to realize that we can get past that and think longer than that.
That's awesome, man. So, look, if you want to follow Todd, Todd, where can people find you? What are some of the best places to find you? I know you don't have Instagram on your phone until today, but where can they find you? So
I do technically have an Instagram. It's Todd_M as in Michael _Fleming. You can find me inside the kingdom. Go to the kingdomacademy.teachable.com. Yeah, kingdomacademy.teachable.com. If you use the code TODD, TODD in all caps, it's actually free for 30 days. So you can come hang out for 30 days and see if it's right for you, which would be awesome. That's where I spend most of my time. I unfortunately can't answer a lot or any DMs or PMs at this point because I just get so many throughout the day, and it's not fair to others. So I mean, I really do try to get to them, but those are the two best places to find me for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the great thing about what the Kingdom does, and listen, I don't have a horse in this race. Todd ain't paying me to promote the Kingdom. That's not what this is about. But the great thing about the Kingdom, if you want access to people that are playing on a very big level in this business, that is the place you want to go and check out, because they are a great group of guys. You know, they tell it like it is. They will guide you. They will coach you. They will tell you their mistakes. They will, you know, help you get your head right to where it's going to take time to get deals. It might take you time to get your head right. Shit, it took me time to get my head right. And, you know, but that time is worth the investment. And it's so incredibly cheap for what the value is that they provide. It's ridiculous. So I'd highly encourage you to check them out. I'm going to put the links to Todd's books in the comments after we wrap up, and in our show notes on our YouTube channel. And then also the link for the Kingdom as well. Look, man, I appreciate you. Oh, all right. One question before we wrap up. Who's going to win the World Series this year?
Not the Miami Marlins. Who's going to win the World Series this year? Man, I think Boston could do it again. I think Boston could go back to back. If I had to pick somebody, baseball is impossible to pick anybody, obviously, which is why we love it so much. Like, hey, tell me about basketball. I'll tell you who's going to be in the finals, right? Like every year. Or football, you know, a couple teams that are always going to be there. Baseball, you're like, nobody would have picked Houston 2 years ago, or to make it as far as they did a year ago, or the Indians and the Cubs the years before. Like, nobody picks that, which is awesome. I would go. Not that I love the choice, but I would go Boston. I'm going to go Boston again. I think they can go back to back.
I'm a huge Cubs fan, but the Cubs have got their work cut out for them in the NL Central this year. So it's going to be like ice skating uphill. That's probably the most stacked division, you know, in the game. So, well, thanks for doing this, brother. I appreciate you. I love seeing you and your success and all that you're doing. Keep doing what you do. I follow you intently and love to see all the things that you're getting done. Like and share the stream again. If you, I'll be sending out a couple of Todd's books after the show is over. You know, and by the way, follow us at odellbarnesreo.com and on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all those social places you can find us. We've got currently about 130 properties in inventory right now, and we'll owner finance any single one of them. So there's no excuse not to be doing deals. And we also have 54 notes that we're making available for sale as well. So if you're interested in buying notes just to get passive income without having to go through all the other steps, you can do that too. So you can send me a DM. We'll be glad to talk with you about that. So I appreciate you, brother. Great to talk with you. And I hope we can connect again soon.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I love you, dude. I really appreciate it. And I'm wildly proud of you. Keep moving forward. Don't quit.
Never. I don't understand that word.
Good. That's a good thing.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, buddy.